Hey y'all, we want to get into this last episode review of LAMH Huntsville Season 6, Episode 24, titled Roger That. And if you enjoy this review, make sure you like, share, comment, and subscribe. Now let's get into it. So we're at Nell's confessional, and she says that it's been a while since she and Chris said, forget work and went out dancing and enjoyed themselves and just had like a little date night, right? And she says that dating is their love language and that he took her to her favorite dance club. And I'm not gonna lie, they did look like they was having fun. It was cute. And then they chat a little bit about work and what's been going on. And he's like, I'm still trying to get Martell out of his house. Um, and then she's like, well, speaking of Martell, remember when he came to bring us them 2 bottles of wine, you know, and Chris was like, yeah, she was like, yeah. So I had a conversation with Martell, and he's mad that, I'm going into Mel's name changing ceremony type thing. And that they need to pick sides. And here go Chris. He's like, here go Martell and this picking sides shit again. And then Chris says that they aren't picking sides, that, he and Nell met Martell and Melody together, so there's no picking sides for real. And Nell says that Martell is really feeling a type of way that Melody is changing her name back, and that his pride is really hurt, and that there's no coming back from it. And that she told him that if Martell would have listened, that Melody wouldn't have needed to change her name and all of that, and that everything went left. She's saying that after she told Martell that, everything went left, and she shouldn't have said that, and that he got loud with her. And Chris is like, well, what you mean he got loud with you? Like, do I need to say something? Do I need to have a conversation with Martell? And then Nell says that Martell really pissed her off. And Chris again is like, well, do I need to have a chat with him to get some clarity to see what's going on, to see why he was acting like that? And Nell says that Martell thinks that she is Team Mel and all that stuff, and that she isn't concerned about how Martell feels, and that she told Martell that he has to be accountable for the things that he's done if he wants Melody to be accountable. And that Martell basically told Nell that she needs to hold Melody accountable for the stuff that she's done and the infidelity and all this stuff. And Nell is like, I don't know nothing about none of that. Hey, Paralegal Perspective. How are you? Thank you for having it live. Um, but yeah, Nell says that Martell was just like, you need to hold Melody accountable for all the stuff that she was doing and the infidelity because she started it first. And Nell was like, I don't know nothing about that because Melody gave Martell 5 years to get his shit together. So she's like, it is what it is at this point. He made his bed, he got to lie in it. And then Nell says that if you look at Melody's invitation for the name change party, it looks like a wedding invitation. And then ask Chris if and then Nell asked Chris if he thinks Melody's gonna like marry herself, and he was like, yeah, whatever she does is is always over the top. Is he really? Well, this show is not for kids, ma'am. Okay, so PG-13. Okay, cover your ears if you need to. Anyways, um, but then now we're with Tiffany, and she's meeting up with Stormi, and this whole scene is very, very awkward. But in her confessional, Tiffany says that she hasn't seen Stormi since the barbecue, and that they really didn't have an opportunity to talk much because there was a lot going on in there. And you could just tell she's ready to go off with her little judgy voice, like, oh, can I stand this lady? Um, but then they're checking some stuff out at the store, and then Tiffany says that she's looking for some thank you cards for everybody that helped her plan the baby reveal. And in her confessional, Stormi says that setting that like getting together with Tiffany and talking to her is always interesting, and that she has to keep it 100 with Tiffany. Um, but she isn't sure how she's going to take it or how this conversation is really going to go, basically. because she's trying to come from a neutral place and she doesn't know how Tiffany's going to take that. And then Tiffany asks Stormi what she's been up to since the barbecue, and Stormi explains that the situation at the barbecue before Tiffany got there had a lot to do with Marceau and all the stuff that he was saying. And Tiffany says that she didn't know that Keke could be so relevant and irrelevant at the same time. And Stormi says that she wishes Tiffany and Keke could stop with the shadiness and, just chill out. Because they be throwing shade back and forth at each other because she feels like they could really be cool. So they just need to stop. And then Tiffany said that she could be cool with anyone. And Stormi says um, that that's a whole bunch of BS because of the shade that she be throwing at at Keke or whatever, and that especially the shade that she threw on Carlos King's show was real shady. And then in her confessional, Tiffany says that she really can't tell if Stormi is on Keke's side right now or if they're trying to cook something up against her. And then they show a clip from Carlos's interview of Tiffany saying that Tisha has already given Keke a platform, so she needs to execute herself better with it, instead of throwing all this shade. And basically that Keke needs to do something else with this platform that Tisha has given her. And I just feel like Tiffany is bored at this point because it's not even entertaining shade anymore. It's just nasty. It's just nasty shade. And I don't know if she's jealous of Keke and her life or whatever, but it's like she just always has something that she needs to say about Keke when it don't got nothing to do with her ever. Oh, I can't associate myself. I can't associate myself. She's not worried about you, bro. She's not worried about you, not even the slightest. Tiffany, nobody is worried about you. Everybody wants you off that fucking show, if we honest. Now, I know Destiny is out here allegedly scamming or whatever using LeBeric's information, but I'd rather have her ass back over Tiffany because her storyline is garbage. It's been garbage, if you ask me. But Tiffany says what's really going on here because there's no way that Stormi is that surprised about the interview. And my problem with Tiffany is that she's trying to act like the shady behavior she exudes is okay because it's like it's just an interview or I just asked a question when it's all fucked up regardless. And like, is she trying to be slow? Like Tiffany gives a little slow to me because she acting like she don't know what she's doing and that her actions and her words will cause issues later on. It's like I didn't do anything, so why are you acting like that? Like Big Lou, come get your wife. That's what I'm saying. He out here on the road and shit with the baseball and all that. You need to be in here putting a muzzle on your wife, okay? Before y'all lose another check, cause she do too much of this. Um, but then Tiffany asked Stormi if she's seen Keke. Hold up.
I know. Okay. I know you're recording.
Oh, I didn't know you.
Yes.
Sorry.
I have something for you real quick. I'm sorry.
Okay. Now we back. Okay. So then Tiffany asked Stormi if she's seen Keke, like has she talked to her or anything. Um, and has she said anything nice about Tiffany? And Stormi says Keke hasn't said half of as bad of stuff that Tiffany has said. Like she basically hasn't gone as shady to the point that Tiffany has. And then Stormi says that she's used to Tiffany and Keke's regular back and forth, but nothing that bad. Nothing that bad that Tiffany said on the interview with Carlos. But Tiffany says in so many words that Keke isn't good enough to be around her because she's always in some mess and that she doesn't have people in her life like that. And my thing is you don't have to have Keke in your life. All you got to do is stop talking about her. And then Tiffany says that throwing a drink on her cousin shows Keke's character, and that's not someone that she wants to associate herself with. And Stormi and says that Stormi doesn't act like that in public that she's seen yet, in my opinion, because Stormi can get there. Look at how she said said, "Oh yeah, women in my family we call men bitches all the time," type shit. Like she's definitely the type to throw a drink in somebody's face. So please, just don't. Cause did you forget y'all little massage thing y'all did earlier in the season? How she was getting real ratchet and shit. You must have forgot about that. Yeah. But then Stormy tells Tiffany that somebody has to stop this tension between she and Keke, and that Tiffany be dragging it on. And Tiffany's like, "Who, me?" And Stormy says, "Yeah." And she says that if you're gonna be acting like you're better than Keke, then you kind of is doing too much. And then Tiffany's like, "I'm not better than her." And Stormy says, "Well, that's not what you said on Carlos's interview." And Tiffany's trying to say, "No, I didn't say it like that." And Stormy's like, "Girl, I'm not gonna go verbatim for what you said, but essentially you was like, you know, Keke don't need to be around because everybody else is too good enough to be around her," in so many words. And she says that it was kind of hard for her watching Tiffany on the interview, because she didn't know she had it in her to be shady like that. And she says that she was kind of hurt by it. And in her confessional, Tiffany says that she's surprised at Stormy's reaction to her interview with Carlos. And she says that she probably just said everything that everybody else was thinking about Keke on the show. And that since when are people surprised at Tiffany being shady? And then Stormy tells her that in order to get over the situation with Keke, they both have to stop throwing jabs. And as of late, Tiffany's have been worse, and that Keke is remorseful about what she did at the barbecue. My bad, y'all. That might have cut out. The Wi-Fi is a little wonky. That might have cut out for a second, but just bear with me. Um, and Tiffany's like, "Oh, so you've talked to Keke?" And Stormy's like, "Yeah, she did." And then she asked Stormy if Keke was receptive to having a conversation with her. And Stormy, or no, okay, so Tiffany asked Stormy if Keke would be receptive to having a conversation with her. But then before Stormy could even answer, Tiffany was like, "Or is this Stormy trying to start a pot?" And my thing is why would you expect Keke to want to have a conversation with you after you said that shit about her? I wouldn't want to talk to you either, bitch. I would actually spit in your face, probably if I was mad. Um, and then Stormy looks at her for a few seconds, like, "What do you mean stirring the pot? Like, don't do that. I'm not the one. Don't do that." And she's like, "Cause I don't gotta stir shit." But she's like, "Let's go sit down, cause this shit then got weird or whatever. But don't do that." And then as they sit down, she's like, "Why would you say that? Why would you say I'm trying to start a pot?" And Tiffany says that she just feels like everyone's um kind of on Keke's side, I guess, because or everything's one sided because she hasn't had a chance to talk to Keke. And then Stormy says that when she talked to Keke, she was in the middle of moving to another school district for her son, and that's another thing. Like she isn't sure if Tiffany said something to somebody about Keke and them moving to another district. And Tiffany's like, "What do you mean?" And Stormy says, like, "Did you say anything to anyone about Keke moving?" And she's like, "No, I haven't said anything to anyone about that," or like, "I can't remember." And to me, she was lying. She looked like she was lying. But Stormy was like, in so many words, Keke was like, "You over here running your mouth about her moving with her kid and stuff." And then Tiffany says that she doesn't even know how to stop people from stirring things up that aren't real. And Keke said that Tiffany was talking about her. And Tiffany says that why would she have anything to say about Stormy and her products and all of that stuff? And Stormy's like, "Keke said that you was talking shit about the products basically." And Tiffany was like, "She's almost out of all of them, so why would she have anything bad to say?" And in her confessional, Tiffany says she doesn't know why Keke is trying to bring a wedge between she and Stormy. And then Stormy says that even when Tiffany said, how can Keke be so relevant and irrelevant at the same time, that shit was shady and she needs to stop because she keeps it going. And then if that happens, and they're really going to be fighting for real, and it's going to escalate to a point that they don't want it to be at. And then Tiffany says that she doesn't want it to get to that point. But Stormy says that if you keep fucking with Keke, it's going to get to that point. And Tiffany says that her jabs, they're innocent. And Stormi says that the beef needs to die down, and that if they talk it out and stop the petty shit, then they can move on. But if Tiffany don't feel like the need to stop with the jabs and shit, then it's only gonna get worse. And then Tiffany says that so basically don't poke the bear. She got it. And then Stormi says, well, why would you even poke the bear in the first place if you know it's a fucking bear, right? But then she basically asked Stormi, like, do you think you would be a good mediator to have this conversation between me and Keke? And she's like, yeah, because I feel like I know both of y'all. And then in her confessional, Tiffany says that she's over talking about Keke and Tiffany, but she wants to get to the root of the issue. My thing is stop being a messy bitch. Then there won't be no issue to get to the root of. Because you got too much time in your hands to be worried about what the fuck Keke doing when she ain't worried about you, honey. Like your dry ass. Ain't nobody worried about you. Now we're with Melody and they're showing everybody setting up for her party, and she got a little 4-band orchestra, 4-people orchestra or whatever. And a lot of people are showing up, and in her confessional she says that today starts a new chapter in her life and she's officially going back to her maiden name, and she's having a ceremony for it, and she's been praying for this day. And then she and her mom chat for a little bit, and then Melody makes her dramatic ass entrance walking in down the aisle like she is getting married to her own song that she wrote. And then the pastor says some vows that Melody wrote for herself. And then it's just all very emotional for them. And then Van says some stuff to Melody, and then they hug and they cry and all that. And my thing is I'm not gonna lie, if I had the coin to throw me a name change party or any kind of party, I would. What do you mean? And people would be like, "Oh, it's extra. Just change your name back. Nobody care." No, I would have one too, because after all the shit that Martell put her ass through, I would have one like ASAP. But then Melody chats with some of her family, and then Nell says, "Hey, I need to speak with you for a second." And in her professional, Mel says one thing she ain't going to do today is BS, and says like what's so important that Nell needs to talk to her right now. And my thing is y'all know Melody don't like being interrupted at her parties with no BS, especially about Martell. So tread lightly, Miss Nail, because she don't like being interrupted about no bullshit. And then Nail thanks Mel for inviting her and asks her how she been doing, and says she's good, she's feeling great. And Nail says, well, I seen your ex-husband. And in her confessional, Mel says that she isn't sure why Nell wants to talk about Martell right now because it's a Martell-free zone. And he ain't here today, and it ain't about him. But then Nell explains how he came over and was just mad at her about going to the name change party, and how he needs to hold Melody accountable for her infidelity, all kinds of shit. And my thing, I kind of just felt like Nell wanted to get this frustration out because Martell pissed her off so bad. She like, Mel, come get this old nigga. You know what I'm saying? It felt like something like that. And then Melody is like, well, that's why we're celebrating today, because I'm dropping his ass. Like, what do you mean? I don't want to talk about him no more. It's not about him. Martell not here. I'm changing my name back to my shit. And I had a name before I met him, did I not? Type shit. You know what I'm saying? But basically, in so many words, Nell, she wasn't trying to hear that shit at all. But now we're with Stormi, and she's chatting with this white man whose name is Kyle. Okay, and he is the CMO/COO of her company. And she's talking to him, and she's like, she feels good that she could take a step back and work on other things. Yeah, honey, because you've been all over TikTok with that body glaze. And this is not a sponsored review. This ain't a sponsored video at all. But she been all over the TikTok about this damn body glaze. Okay. But Stormi tells this white man Kyle that she wants to celebrate Canvas Beauty being out for 5 years, and she wants to throw a party or something for this year because it's a big year for them, and she needs to celebrate. And then Kyle says, yeah, because when he came onto the company, it was just a whole lot of hot ass shit going on. And Stormi gets emotional. Kyle says, yeah, you almost lost it all. And says that he isn't just talking about the money or the warehouse. He means even her ranch, her house. And says that he doesn't want to make her sad, but he wants her to understand where the company was. And then Stormi says, yeah, because he came in the nick of time. and that, her company just grew too fast, and that when she was on bed rest while she was pregnant, there was a lot of things going on left and right with her signature being forged, and people basically stole so much from her and the company and from her family. And then she starts to cry again, and Kyle was like, he said, come on, come on, you're gonna make me cry. You know how white guys be, come on, cut that shit out. But then Stormi says that she kind of had to start from zero, and nobody knew that, and that she had days where she wanted to leave it all behind. And Kyle told her, "Nah, we gonna fix this shit." And Kyle says that she knows that he knows that she wants to help her family and all of that, but them being leaders of the company, they have an ethical and legal responsibility to make the best decisions for Canvas. So no more snakes in the garden. And I'm just like, well, Kyle ain't come to play then. Damn it, he did not come to play with you, him, her, nobody. He said, cut that shit out. No more junior, no more hiring family. Okay, this is a company, and we got to drive it on. No more, no mas. But now we're with the Fletchers, and Chris and Nell are cooking, and in their confessional, Chris says that they're having their Fletcher family dinner with their 4 kids, and then he forgot to mention with their niece. And then they name all their kids, and then their niece Keke. And I'm like, how many Kekes y'all trying to have on here, bro? And then she says, and then Nell says that she had a hand in raising her, and that she had been working with her for a long time, but she recently had to fire her. And Chris is like, yeah, well, she found another job, but got fired from that one too. And Nell was like, well, see, she don't tell me nothing. Why she tell you and she didn't tell me? And then Nell asked Keke if she got fired from her other job, or is she working? And Keke sighs, and she's like, yeah, I got another job. I'm cool. And Nell's like, don't lie to me. You ain't got to lie. She was like, I heard you ain't got no job. And Keke says, I do. I got fired from that one, but I got another one. And Nell was like, well, how did you lose your other job? And she was like, because I didn't have proper childcare. And then Nell asked Keke why she told Chris and not her. And Keke says, because Uncle Chris was cool. And she says that she was going to tell Nell that day of the dinner, but she wanted to fix the problem first because she didn't want to hear her mouth. And then Nell says, well, you're going to hear my mouth regardless because she's the one that's been helping her, so she feels like she should have came to her. And then Keke says that she didn't want her, she didn't know how to tell her about, the job. And then Nell says that she's always the last one to find out anything. And Keke says that it's because of how she reacts to stuff. And Nell says, let's all sit down so she can hear how they all feel. And in her confessional, Nell says she feels her kids favor their dad more than her. And Chris says that they may feel their mom jumps to the gun a little bit, and maybe they can tell him stuff because they feel that he will listen more before responding and reacting. And Nell says that they feel she prejudges them, and Chris doesn't, but she says that that's a part of being a mom, and that's Chris's part of being dad. So, and Chris is like, well, so you say? And she's like, yeah, that's how I feel. We're starting to tell that Miss Nell is a firecracker, okay? That's what they want us to know, that Miss Nell in the second half of the season is a firecracker, and she's not to be fucked with. That's what you hear this, Tiffany? She's not to be fucked with, okay? But then Nell tells them at the table that every one of them has their own issues, and that the same way she comes through for them, they need to come through for each other. And then the cameras show the kids' faces and how they like, oh shit, here she go again. And then Keke tells Nell that she can be a bit dramatic sometimes, and she goes from 0 to 100. And Nell says that, you'd be dramatic too if you had to go overload and do every damn thing. And then one of the kids say that they don't really talk to anybody for real. This was Alexis. This was the daughter. And she doesn't talk to nobody for real. And one of the other kids, Chris Jr., he said that he doesn't talk to nobody either, and he's not ignoring them, and he doesn't want anybody to think that he's ignoring them either, but he don't really ask his mom or dad for nothing. And then Nell tells him that he used to call her every other day, and that now he stopped, and he's like, why aren't you? And she asked him, why aren't you doing that? And apparently it was over a dog. And then in the confessional, Chris says that recently Chris Jr. went to jail, and that they had to go get his dogs and take one of the dogs to the vet, and that it was $3,800, and then they had to bail him out, which was $6,000, and says that at this point he owes them a lot of money. And Nell says that he won't be getting them dogs back until he pays them. You gonna pay what you owe, Santa? You gonna pay what the fuck you owe? And then Chris Jr. and they'll go back and forth about the dogs and why he won't pay her back for the dogs, and they go back and forth real bad. And then Alexis, the daughter, says, flag on the play, flag on the play. And Nell's like, Alexis, shut the fuck up. And then that was the end of that. Okay, like I said, Miss Nell is a firecracker, and she don't play. And I don't want to mess with her. I don't want to mess with her at all. But y'all, there is a new episode, I believe, of Huntsville coming on tonight at 8 o'clock. So make sure y'all tune in for that. And y'all check me out later on for the review. And I'm going to see y'all in the next one. Bye, y'all.